He's an Academy Award nominee. He is an Emmy winner. He is an author. He is a philanthropist. He has an amazing podcast. In so many different ways, he is my better. And it's really starting to get a little tiresome. But nevertheless, it's my great honor to introduce your host for the evening, Alec Baldwin.
Thank you for coming out to see one of my favorite movies of all time. And I love in these programs how I'm going to read to you about someone and we're all going to pretend we don't know who it is. I love that part of the program. We're showing this movie and I'm going to talk about this famous woman who's had this historic career, but let's pretend we don't know who I'm referring to. Let's pretend I'm introducing her to you now for the very first time. Our guest tonight is a 3-time Academy Award nominee in the Best Supporting Actress category. In 1944 for Gaslight, which was her film debut. In 1945 for the picture of Dorian Gray. And in 1962 for the film we're about to see tonight, The Manchurian Candidate. She received an honorary Oscar in 2013, presented to her by Robert Osborne let's hear it for Robert Osborne. It was presented to, quote, an entertainment icon who has created some of cinema's most memorable characters, inspiring generations of actors. She is the recipient of 1 Olivier Award in 2015 for her performance in Blithe Spirit. She has 5 Tony Awards, 18 Emmy nominations, 1 Grammy Award. And she was named Dame Angela in 2014 for her services to drama, charitable work, and philanthropy. Please join me in welcoming Angela Lansbury.
I love you too.
Now, if in a different time, like now, for example, I would turn to the actor and I'd say, you know, the movie that you're making is based on a comic book. Did you read the comic book before you made the movie? But in your case, The Manchurian Candidate is based on a book, and I'm told you read the book before the film, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And there are some distinctions in the book and the film, correct? They didn't put everything in the movie that's in the book.
Well, they couldn't.
Right.
Quite frankly. No, the book was presented to me by the director, John Frankenheimer, on the last day of a shoot of a movie we were making called All Fall Down, and he slammed this book onto the table where I was standing. I think I was doing some re-recording of certain scenes, and he said, "There's your next movie." So I said, oh, yeah. He said, "Take it home, read it, and let me know what you think." So I did. And of course I was blown away by the book. It took quite a bit of a read, I'll tell you that. But it was wonderfully well constructed and so original, so extraordinary. And the character that I assumed he wanted me to play was like nothing else I had ever read for myself as an actress to depict. So I was really blown away, as I say, by it.
Now your character, though, she seduces her son in the book, correct?
Yeah.
I could tell you were so hoping I wouldn't bring that up. But that in the book that they have...
Got to be famous for something, you know.
Tell me about it.
And there are other instances in other movies. I think John Frankenheimer, quite frankly, was very he was very kind of taken with the idea of mothers and sons, you know. And we had our moments with Warren Beatty, you know, in All Fall Down.
Yes.
And that was John Frankenheimer, so same director. Mm-hmm.
Now, I've had people describe sets of some of the most iconic films in the most interesting ways. You know, I mean, people would describe the set of The Godfather. I mentioned you backstage that there were a lot of pranks, and they would play all these practical jokes at each other, and everything would kind of level off when they would roll the camera, I imagine. What was the tone of this film like? Because it's the tone of the film is so dark and so dramatic. I mean, what was it like when you shot the film?
I can honestly say that John maintained a mood on that set that was really all business and had everything to do with the story and the scenes at hand. He was a very serious director in his own way, and he really got terribly excited with the drama that was inherent in a scene. And we all kind of were dragged into that, and we went along with it. And, you know, we were really very sincere, and we were going to make a great movie. And damn it really turned out to be. I don't know if it was a great movie, but it was certainly, it made you sit up in your seat when you saw it. And it was so original and so different, and it was dealing with quantities of life that we'd never seen before. You know, extraordinary kind of Chinese guys.
Brainwashing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, it was pretty odd, to say the least. And those of you who have seen it will agree, I think, and when you see it tonight, it was very, very original and extraordinary. And to maintain that, thank you, I think it deserves that, because there's never been anything before or since like it.
And when you did the film, I mean, people have always, I want to try to go around this cliche, which is people always do, why do I have this pillow on my lap this way? The strangest thing, I was brainwashed by some people to put that there. It's so bizarre. But the question is that people have obviously made a meal over and over again about the fact that you were 36 years old when you made this film, and you were only a few years older than Lawrence Harvey. But I'm reminded of this wonderful story that Julie Andrews talked about doing Victor Victoria, where she said she walked around and she studied the way men carried themselves in order to impersonate a man. How men would be in a circle talking, and they wouldn't really make way for another man to come into the circle too much unless they really knew him. They were very proprietary about their space, and they would do that with a woman. She went into this litany of things they did. Did you have to study things and focus on certain things to play someone who is significantly older than you really are? How did you find that character, because you do it perfectly?
Well, that's a good question. I never really describe how I arrive at a character. I don't do the kind of spade work that you've just described. I just sort of take on attitudes that are, in most instances, the absolute antitheses of the woman that I am. Because as far as I'm concerned, what the writer gives the character to say is immediately a clue for me, the actress, as to what my attitudes or my looks or everything else that are packed into this character that you're playing, that will emerge as that person, not me. I always say to everybody, leave yourself at home. Don't bring yourself to that set. Be that woman and, get on with it. And that seems to work on various levels in various roles. And people say, well, how could you suddenly be that person one minute and then somebody totally different the next? Only because the writer, if he's any good, gives me a pretty good idea of the character that he's asking me to be, not play, but to be. And I think if you're going to succeed as an actor, you have to be that person when you're saying those lines. They're not yours, they're the writers, and they are that character's. And this is the thing that sells that character to the audience. It's a long-winded answer.
No. I just want to add that I really wonder, and this is a sick thing to say, but watching this movie over and over again, I sure wish I had a mother like your character. Because I can try to think of how far I really would have gone in life if I had a woman behind me, a steely, Machiavellian monster like that to help me. My mother isn't at all like that, I must say. Now you had back-to-back nominations in 1944 and 1945. How did you feel in your early career? Did you feel a little heady and you thought everything was going really, really well? Did you feel unstoppable?
No, I didn't. I always felt challenged because the kind of odd thing was that directors, producers, they all saw me in a different way. One producer would see me as a kind of song and dance girl. Next one would see me as the mother or rather boring kind of nurse in some movie with Walter Pigeon. You know, I mean, it's incredible that, you know, I guess I gave them the impression that I could change myself. Well, of course I did, I had to. And it bored me to death to play some of those movies, I can tell you that. And I was very glad to get away from movies and go to theatre. And of course when I left, the last great movie that I got to be in was The Manchurian Candidate. And that was in 1952 or 54. 62, yeah. And thereafter, I said, enough already, and I shot off to Broadway, and in vain, because I had to, otherwise, you know, I was beginning to lose it, if you know what I mean. So.
Now, the studio system kind of crumbles. You're under contract in the early part of your career. When that ended, were you happy? Were you glad? What were the things you missed about the old studio system?
I didn't miss a darn thing, to be truthful. No. There were some great early years doing Gaslight with a great director, George Cukor. I mean, what an entrance into Hollywood movies was that. And then, of course, the picture of Dorian Gray. And a wonderful story, and a lovely role, a lovely, vulnerable, sweet girl. To get to play that was a miracle that I ever did, honestly. But, and I said goodbye to that, and instead of letting me do other roles that might have revealed some extensions of those characters, you know, L.B. Mayer put me in a whole bunch of dreadful parts, and I couldn't wait to get away from MGM and get into theatre, which had been my original plan as a kid. You know.
Now back to this film. Sinatra, I'm assuming, had a lot of influence on the production of the film.
Yes.
And some say, and apparently there was another actress that he had envisioned playing your part.
Yeah, he wanted Lucille Ball, which was interesting.
Oh my God.
I mean, that would have been fascinating, you know. You wouldn't have believed that she could be this devil incarnate, you know.
Oh, really?
I say that about her, no. Watching him.
But you got the part. How did you get the part? What do you think? Was Frankenheimer, he just put his foot down and said...
I think Frankenheimer put his foot down.
Yeah.
I really do. And because I had just done another movie with him,
Right.
which was All Fall Down, with Warren Beatty, and wonderful cast. And William Inge was a beautiful script and had been a play. And I played Warren's mother in that. That was an interesting part.
And when you did...
Parts I played, yes.
Well, when you did this part, I don't want to go into any detail about or any, you know, byway here about your television show, but you played this, you know, beloved character on television for many, many years. And this, of course. And you play this woman that everybody in the world loves on this television show. And in this movie, you're like this gigantic monster in this movie. And it's true. I mean, you're so awful. And it's wonderful. It's so delicious. But do you miss playing villains? Was it fun to play a villain?
Oh,
Villainess?
Yeah, they're the best, you know. No, they're not the best, but it's a lot of fun to play a well-written villain, you know, not just a villain, but a really interesting kind of, a villain of parts, as you might say, you know. So you weren't quite sure about her, you know. You only twigged